Hi, everyone. This time on the Haunted Hour podcast, I have special guest Rick McCallum, who is Hollywood stuntman, founder of Hollywood Ghost Hunters, been in many movies as a stuntman, and author of 2 amazing books. So let's get right into this episode.
Yesterday I lost my child. Yesterday I'm in a bar. Being broke it really sucks. It does. And the rent's just too damn much.
So yeah, my darling.
Okay, so I know that you went to Scotland and did some ghost hunting. And so I wanted to kind of talk to you about your trip and then also just paranormal in general. And you sent me some cool videos that we're going to show. So you want to start with your video so people know who you are, and then we'll get right into talking?
Because right now they're sitting there going, "Who is this guy that's sitting in the dark?"
All right, well, I'm gonna pull up this video. Oops.
Is there anything in the castle that we should be afraid of?
The energy.
The way it says it with a Scottish accent. It's like the energy.
Yeah,
You know,
I
it's like-
noticed that too. Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Now, where was that at?
That was at Balgony Castle in Scotland. And a lot of the pictures on that reel there were from Balgony. The one with me and the dog and the laird.
Mm-hmm.
And the other pictures that were just in front of that were all Balgony Castle.
So do
Which
you
is-
think? Go ahead.
No, I mean, Balgony is just one of the most awesome places that there is. However, the most awesome part about it was the laird, who was a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we really connected. And he passed away about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So it's not the same.
No. Did you go there on your trip that you were just there?
Not this time, but I did in July.
Okay. That was after he had passed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did
And
you
it really, it was strange, him not being there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Did you feel like his energy was there, or did you like feel the connection still?
I didn't feel it. I walked all the way through that thing, but I think he's resting where he's supposed to.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
So that makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah, he moved on. He was already there for his whole life. I always thought, like, say you spend your time like he did in this location that's haunted and there's spirits that you're talking to on a regular basis, and then you do pass away. Did he pass away in the castle, or was it someplace else?
No, he passed away in the castle in his room.
Wow.
And just to tell you how cool this guy was, he was amazing tradesman. He actually represented Scotland in the World Leather Making Championship, Leather Working Championships. He carved all the doors in the castle. Uh, he made his own coffin,
Oh, wow.
which he put the year, that he was born and the year that he was in, so that when he died, all I had to do was pick him up from his bed and put him in the coffin.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and it was actually in his bedroom. Coffin sitting right there. I mean, it was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
But he was something. I mean, very, very talented man.
Yeah. So do you imagine that like when you do cross over that there's that moment where you are basically stepping out of your body, realizing that you're crossing over, and do you think the other spirits that you've communicated with possibly are there to greet you? Like, wouldn't that be kind of cool? Like if you talk to these different spirits, you pass away and then they're there to say, hey, this is what I look like. This is who I actually am, you know?
Well, I think they do. They probably would, but I think you would have the first bunch of people that would come to you would be your pets.
Oh, I love that.
I had a lucid dream about something like that, and it was I actually had a dream. I was sitting there just like I am now, wide awake, and all of a sudden something started going in front of my eyes, and everything went black, and I was like, "Oh crap, this isn't a good sign." And then I saw a little tiny white light in the way off, and I went, "I'm dead," right?
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I got to go to the light," but I got to tell you, I was terrified. I mean, I was waiting for hands to come up and grab my ankles and yank me under, and I mean, I was just
Yeah.
absolutely terrified.
Oh my
But I
God.
kept walking towards the light, and it got bigger as I got closer. And I got probably like 25 yards away, and I could see figures, but you couldn't see them really good. It looked like you're looking through wax paper, but you could see the outlines of them.
Oh.
And I stopped about 10 yards away, and all of a sudden something banged into me from behind, and I was like, yeah. And then something else banged into me, and then things started banging into me all over the back of my butt and the back of my legs, knocking me forward. And I finally got within fair distance of the light, and I turned around and looked, and it was all the dogs that I'd had my whole life pushing me to the
Oh.
light.
Oh, I
So
love that. Oh my
yeah.
God.
So
Oh,
anybody that had a animal pass away, they're waiting for you.
yeah. I believe that because I had a dream, and I call it cat heaven. Is that in the dream it was like a walled courtyard, and it kind of looked old, like something you would see like in Ireland or Scotland, like that type of wall and the green grass. And there was cats everywhere, and they were all sitting along the wall and just like, being happy and being cats, not fighting. There was like, they didn't seem like they needed anything. And one of the cats that I've had was there. And like when I woke up, I was like, I believe that I got a little glimpse, of where he is. Because up until that point, I had been having nightmares of where he was buried under our tree. And I was always walking out to his grave site on our property. And it was very disturbing. And then I got that transition where I saw, what I perceived to be where he was. So,
Well, what's really strange? I get those dreams not really often, but when I do, they're really intense. And I think there's a reason that I get them. And it's not always clear to me right when it happens, right? But a couple of days after I had that dream, I went into the grocery store where I get my sandwiches made.
mhm.
And one of the guys comes up, and I said, "Hey, man, what's the matter?" And he goes, "Oh, my dog died."
Oh,
And I said, "Really? Can I tell you a story?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I told him, and he started crying right there in the store.
oh,
So I think I was meant to see that so I could relay it to him.
yeah. Oh, I
So
love that. Yeah, because we're all connected. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
I had this one lady. She's a phenomenal psychic. I mean, she hit on every single thing. I mean, stuff I didn't even remember. And the things about dogs and cats and stuff she told me just amazing.
oh. Oh, I love that. Well, I had a cat. I don't know if you ever heard my story about Sarge, but I had this cat for 8 years and I loved the cat. I loved him too much. You know, sometimes you're too attached to your pets. I was
Mhm.
overly attached to this cat. And so he disappeared one day. And I spent, I went to all the different pounds. I went everywhere. I drove around. I had signs. I chased down the dog catcher. Like I was starting to get seriously weird about it. And so I had looked up, and there's a ritual you can do when you're looking for a pet. And you take, you speak with like the tree. So there was a tree outside my front yard where he used to like to get the afternoon shade from. And so I talked to that tree and I asked the tree to locate my cat for me. And I took a rock from the tree and put it inside. And I put something of his out under the tree, like as an offering. Right. And then it's the connection. And so that night I had a dream that he was across the street at my neighbor's. I was looking out the window and I saw him sitting there, and he looked like because he was an in and outdoor cat. So he'd come back all like blown out and everything and have to like get cleaned up and stuff because he was just living his life. But he was all regal and like almost like glowing, and his fur was just like so perfectly like brushed and everything. And I kept thinking in my mind, why doesn't he come home? Why can't he come across the street? And like the vibe I got from him is, I can't, I'm not here. The next morning, I woke up and I'm at my kitchen window looking out, getting ready to make my coffee. And a black and white cat that looked similar to him, but it wasn't him, jumped up on the fence and looked at me. And I said, Kitty. And then he just took off. And I never saw that cat before or after. And so basically, he and the universe, the earth, was telling me that he had crossed over, and that he was letting me know that he was okay. So it was like he was able to communicate to me from the dream world, and then it physically manifested the next morning with a cat coming that looked similar to him. And then he was leaving. It was like an example, So I think we're way connected to animals than we even know.
Well, I agree. And you know what? I've been connected to animals. I mean, I always love my dogs, and now unfortunately I'm allergic to them, except for my part-time dog.
Yeah.
The girl who lives below me has a dog that I'm not allergic to.
Huh.
So when she goes out of town, I watch him. So I have a part-time dog. Right?
I love that.
It's pretty cool. I actually had a Great Dane that was so attached to me. I mean, I couldn't go to the bathroom without him. And he weighed 180 pounds. He was huge. He just followed me everywhere. They were going to put him down because he was vicious.
Aww.
And we went out to see him, and they were charging $500 for a dog, the only place that had any Great Danes anywhere. And this was 1979. $500 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we went out there, and this lady shows me all these show dogs, and they come out and they all look like Brad Pitt from Legends of the Fall, hair, kind of moving, But finally she goes, well, that's about it. And I said, about it? And she goes, yeah. I said, well, bring that one out. She goes, oh, I can't. She goes, he's vicious. She goes, he fights with every other dog. He attacked everybody that's come near him.
Huh.
Right? I said, please bring him out. She goes, okay. And she comes out in this magnificent looking dog, Great Dane, huge. He looks like he came off the Calcan commercial.
Yeah.
And he's got a muzzle on, and he comes out, and she's standing there, and he's about 6 feet away from me. I'm looking at him in the face, and I'm looking at his eyes, and I knelt down onto one knee, and I'm looking at him, and we're like the same height. This big dog, right? And I looked at her, I said, can you take the muzzle off? She goes, no. I said, no, if he bites me, it's on me. Please take the muzzle off. She goes, okay. She takes the muzzle off, and I looked at him, come here. And he looked at me, he was like, who are you talking to? I was like, hey, come here, right? And he walked over and he put his face right in front of mine. And this lady's having a damn heart attack.
Yeah.
Right? You expect he's going to eat my face.
Yeah.
And I just looked at him, right? And I swear to God, this is exactly what happens. It's in my first book. He took a step forward and he put his head on my shoulder and leaned into me. So I just started petting him. And I looked at him, I said, he doesn't seem vicious to me.
Yeah.
Right? So I just put my hand on his chest and I pushed him back and I said, sit. And he looked at me and I just reached out and went, smacked him on the butt. I said, sit. And he sat down. I said, good boy. And he's like hugging on me again. So I told the lady, I said, I want him. She goes, you can have him. I said, well, how much? And she goes, no, you can have him. We were going to put him down. She goes, I have never seen an animal have a connection like that to a human being. And I mean,
Oh.
that dog, everywhere I went, he was, I'd be eating. I could eat off his head. He was so close. He was
Oh.
something, though.
Oh,
He
I
was,
love that. What was
you
his
know, I
name?
think, well, Tubby, his name was.
Tubby?
And he wasn't Tubby at all. Um, you know, it's funny. I do think that animals choose you and you don't choose them,
I agree.
you know, because we had a little Doberman puppy that we got to pick the litter. And I went down and I sat down, and this one little knucklehead kept coming over and jumping on me and licking my face and rolling around. And all the other dogs would come over and they go sniff, sniff, sniff. And this was like, ah. And I went, all right,
Oh.
you're coming. Let's go.
Oh, I love that.
But you know what? I really believe that if animals respond to you like that, spirits will do it too. Because
Yeah.
I think they both go off a vibe and an aura. And I
Yeah.
think that's why some people get a lot of ghosts when they go out and some people get zip,
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. There's something that I've been studying, like frequencies and how we vibrate at certain frequencies, and that is exactly why that we're just the communication line is open, and you're able to, you're at the same kind of vibrational level,
Yeah.
and
Well, I've always said the same thing. I've always said it's vibration, right?
yeah,
And everybody goes, what do you mean? I said, no, everybody has a vibe. How many times have you heard somebody say, oh, that guy's got bad vibes? She's got
yeah,
good vibes, you know?
yeah,
And if you got the good vibes, the spirits can see them.
right.
You
Well,
know,
I
that's what
believe they know intention. Yeah,
well, I tell people all the time, I said, don't provoke. And they say, why? You know, maybe we get something. I said, if I came to your house and started calling you names and breaking stuff, would you want me to stay? Well, no. I said, then why would you talk to them like that?
yeah,
Right. So I don't let anybody provoke while
yeah.
I'm around.
Yeah, I don't see a point in it. Like people they're so into like having something on a recording that they're missing the whole point. Is like, isn't it better to have a pleasant conversation or no conversation versus like something, goes badly and like, what did you actually accomplish? I mean, I guess if you just want something to record, but that's a whole different, to me, that's not paranormal investigating. That's like ghost hunting, right? There's a
Well,
two.
that's fame hunting.
Yeah.
There's so many people that want to have their own TV show now because practically everybody does.
Yeah.
Um, and the fact is that half the stuff, now you know this as well as I do, half the stuff on there is crap.
Yeah.
You know, half the stuff they're doing is just bogus, right?
Yeah.
Other stuff, there's other shows, that are really legit, right? They do everything, a legitimate way. So it's always funny when you first go out with somebody and it's one of their very first times out and you say, all right, I've got the recorder going, K2 meters out. Why don't you ask some questions? Did you live here? Did you die here? Are you a man or are you a woman? It's like, can you give them time to answer? I mean, they watch TV shows and they all, yeah, this is the question. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
settle down, pretend you're talking to a person.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and that makes me think like when you go to Scotland, and you're talking with spirits there, do you guys like do bilingual questions? Like, how does that work?
well, you don't have to do bilinguals because the Scottish people speak English.
Oh,
You
because
just can't-
like in Ireland they have Gaelic, so did they
That's
have
true.
like?
Well, they have Gaelic in Scotland too, but nobody talks it.
Okay,
Yeah,
my mom
I mean,
still knows some.
because the big problem is I can't understand half of them, and they're speaking English with the accents they have. It's like, what did you just say? So,
Yeah,
but
that's true.
you can't find a nicer group of people, though.
Yeah,
They are absolutely wonderful people. I mean, I'm always out with Scottish Paranormal, and a couple other groups have taken me out, Scottish Highlands, and been very lucky to get to some really well-known places. Like the last time I was there, I went to Bannockburn House, which is like one of the iconic places. I went to Banshee Labyrinth, went to a graveyard called the Bewley Priory.
No.
And the weirdest thing is, as you walk in the gate, there's a big tombstone. And I flash on it because we're in dark. John McCallum, very first one right in the front. John McCallum. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And we're supposed to have a relative named John McCallum, so I was kind of wondering if it was him, but
Oh wow.
there was probably a lot of John McCallums. But
Maybe.
yeah, that was pretty cool. But I got to go to many, many really cool places. I also sent you a thing of the K2 meter going.
Yeah.
And
where was that?
that was at the Travel Lodge, 2 floors below on the Travel Lodge. And when I finally got a chance, it's like 4 years ago, I finally got a chance this time to go back. And I was so excited. So me and the same guy went back. And there was a guy upstairs and a girl upstairs who I knew. And we asked him, he said, "Are you into ghosts?" And he goes, "No, not at all." Right. And I said, "Oh, okay." So we went downstairs and I filmed. It wasn't this, but I filmed some more stuff. And it pretty much backed up everything you see in this one.
Oh.
So I went up and I showed him, I said, "Take a look at this." And he looked at it and he goes, right. And I said, "You don't believe in spirits?" He goes, "No." I said, "After what I've shown you?" And he goes, "Man, I'm spooked." He goes, "I got the chills." Right? I said, "That's the only reason I go ghost hunting." He goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, I take girls with me. I hope they get the chills and they grab on me for comfort." Doesn't really work, but I've tried it so many times. But that
It looks like it works for Zach Bagans.
Well, Zach's pretty. I'm not.
Oh.
You know,
All right.
I'm a character actor, you know. That means I've got lines and things.
All right, I'm going to bring this up. I watched this video. I really thought it was interesting.
We were talking with you earlier. You're back. Okay, make it go back down to 1. Thank you. Are you the spirit we were talking to just a few minutes ago? Is that a yes? Are you the spirit we were just talking to? Okay, thank you for that. Are there more with you? Are there more spirits here? There are, okay. If I go from the number, just start counting, can you make that go off when I get to the right number? Is there 2? 3? 4? 5? 2? Okay, so there are 2 spirits here, correct? Okay, thank you. All right, make it go back down to 1 so we can talk. Thank you. If I ask you what years you were around, can you make that light up? Were you here in the 1900s? The 1800s? But the interesting thing about that, which most ghost hunters notice, but most other people don't, is I pulled a couple of trickeries and deceits in there trying to catch them off guard. Like the one guy, first off, have you ever seen anybody that can talk them into going back to 1?
Right. Yeah. K2s are really hard to, they're hard to use. And
they did it both times I asked, which was really cool.
Yeah.
But when I was asking about I wasn't holding the K2, my friend was. I was just standing there watching. And when I asked him how many people were there, and it went 2, and it went all 5 lights.
Yeah.
And then I went 3, 4, and he's looking at me like, "What are you doing, man?" It just right. And then I went 5, 2, and it went off all again. And then he's like, "Oh, I get it." So that's just my way of trying to check to make sure it's an intelligent spirit.
Right. Yeah.
So if it answers on different times on the same question, then you got something interesting.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've used K2 meters lots of times and I almost always get nothing. And there's been like once or twice where I've gotten something that I couldn't explain. One time I got it in an airfield and I found out later that there's magnets in the airplane that can make it go up. So then I had to ditch that one. But the other 2, and that's out of all the times I've used it. So to get a K2 meter to go to the red like that, so on command, that's mind blowing. That's really cool.
Well, I was doing the LAPD museum, and it was for the Dark Zone. And Kristen Luman was there, Susan Slaughter was there, Brandon Albus was there, and they'd been there the 2 days before, and then I came in on the final day, and I'd loaned them my equipment, right? And when I got there, I took out my K2, and Brandon goes, I used that for 2 days. It didn't go off once. I said, watch, right? And they all looked, and they thought I was being real cocky, and I just held the thing out. I said, hey, Walter, it's Rick. Are you here? Bam, 5 lights, and they went, whoa. I said, Walter's my buddy. He's the first cop that got killed in action on motorcycles.
Oh.
And matter of fact, I have a piece of film where there's 3 K2s sitting there. And this one girl who's a psychic is saying, yeah, we think we heard a name, Arthur, right? And I said, it's probably not Arthur, right? They said, really? And you can see all 3 of the K2 meters. They're about 10 feet apart. And I said, hey, Walter, are you here? Bam! They all went off at the same time. They're like, wow. So I said, yeah, well, Walter's my buddy.
Wow, that's cool. So do you think that he just connected to you? Like they all came in and he wasn't too sure who they are, if he wanted to interact with them or not. But then he saw you and then it was like, okay, then it's cool. You know what I mean?
Well, I made a point because we were there. We went there many times. Because they had a ghost hunt, the LAPD museum did, and myself and Mikey Thompson and other people went. Patty Negri had been there, Sophia Temporelli, Kristen and all those people. And it's a very, very active place, but they don't do the hunts anymore, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But when I first went there, I was sitting in the lobby because they were the first 2 days I hadn't been there, and they're doing a recap on that, and then they're going to bring me in. And I'm sitting at the reception area, which I can see the whole front window and the doors, and they're made out of glass. And I hear somebody walk down the hall in heavy boots going, boom, boom. I mean, unmistakable.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there, and I hear the boots go right in front of me, but I'm behind the counter. Oh. And I'm just sitting there, and I hear the boots go by, and I can see there's nobody there because I'm looking at the windows.
Right.
So I told Jay Blumke when he came up, I said, Jay, I said, I just heard boots coming down the hallway. And he goes, oh, tell Misha. Misha Walden was the girl that was running the ghost hunts. And I told Misha, and she goes, I told you, Jay, I hear that guy every single day coming down the thing.
Oh my God.
She said it was probably Walter. So I went down. They have a little shrine to Walter. And I just went up and said, hey, Walter. I said, was that you that walked by upstairs? That was pretty cool. Right. And I just started talking to him. And I said, this was all you. I said, it's a shame about you being the first one that passed away in it. But, I'm down here to give you credit for being an officer. So after that, he just kind of hugged on me, man. It was like every time I'd ask him, you here? Boom.
Wow. That's so interesting. So did they stop doing the ghost hunts because of the pandemic and they just never went back to it?
No, actually what happened was they transferred Misha and to another place. And I think it was, a upwards move. So at least I hope it was for her because she's a really sweet girl. So the new people didn't have an interest in it, but Misha had, and she would always be there. And I mean, we had some real heavy hitters come in to do that.
Yeah.
I
watched somebody, maybe it was you, but I watched a show that they were there, and it was really, I can't remember everything. I'm pretty sure it was you. Wasn't there a video?
Yes.
You were okay. Yeah, that's what I saw.
How could you forget this magnificent face? I know you try, but it's but it's hard. But that was one of the, actually every time we went, it amped up. So I mean, it was really something. I will tell you one of the things that was the best. Right at the last thing every night, we would do the Estes method, which the people here, most everybody knows. You put on the darken the eyes, you put on the noise canceling headphones, and then ask questions and see what they get without being able to hear the questions. And this was, people would come and they would join us for the ghost hunt. And there was a father and daughter, and it's the girl was like 14. And I was watching, and they were together, but they just didn't look like they were connecting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just as we got to as we went to the last, I walked up to the young girl. I said, would you like to do this? And she goes, yes, but can you make sure my dad watches? I said, yeah, I'll find him. So he was in another room investigating. So I pulled him in. And she had one of the most awesome Estes method things. I mean, she was nailing stuff right and left because the LAPD museum had all of the stuff from the major crimes. You know, Marilyn Monroe dying, Sharon Tate and the Manson family, the night strangler, you know, all those people. All the stuff that they had was there. So it all had that energy in the place. But she had this amazing thing, and it was getting just a little too amazing. So I pulled her out of it, right? And of all the things that I've done ghost hunting, I've been doing this for over 50 years, and I've been to like all the great locations pretty much. When she took off the mask and she went down, the father come up and just, boom, just hugged her. And he goes, oh, honey, I'm so proud of you. And she was, you know, she was beaming. And I was like,
yeah,
that made all those 50 years worthwhile. So,
yeah, because they made that connection, and then they'll be talking about it. They're probably still talking about it.
But it was so cool. And, you know, the father came up, just threw a hug on her, and the daughter was just beaming. And I was like, hey, score one for our side. Woohoo.
So, okay. So then there's like, you've been to like the Queen Mary and all the California and through United States, and then also in Scotland. So do you feel like it's the same amount of hauntings? Is it more haunted overseas? Is it more haunted here? Is it just different?
It is so much more haunted in Scotland.
Really?
Yeah. People always ask me, what's haunted in Scotland? I go, Scotland. the whole damn place is haunted. If you go back and think of their lineage and their history, they were doing battles face to face with farm tools against, you know, armies.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the Scottish people were tough, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the point, not to be gross, but I mean, when they were killing each other, you could smell what the guy had on his breath for what he had from lunch. I mean, this was hand-to-hand, you know, combat. And I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of people got killed. And everywhere you go, I mean, it's hard not to have something happen.
Okay.
I went to a place called the Renfrew Baths when I was there the last time. And I was like, I've never heard of the Renfrew Baths. But we went there, and it's not really baths, it's a pool. It's an indoor swimming pool. And I was there with Ryan O'Neill, who's from Haunted Scotland. Now it's Spooked Ireland, I think is what it's called now, because they went to a different country. Huh. And Gregor Stewart from, Scottish Paranormal, and a whole bunch of Scottish Paranormal subscribers. And I walked off by myself with my K2 meter and my recorder, and I got nothing, absolutely zero. And then I went downstairs, and Ryan was in the gym. It was a small gym. And I had my K2 meter in my hand, and it was going off, but it was going off in a pulse, which made me think it was probably Wi-Fi or something else. So I turned it off, and I put it in my back pocket. And I'm standing there watching what Ryan's doing and listening. And I feel like someone grabbed the K2 and tried and pull it out of my pants pocket. So I turn around to see who's messing around with me. And it's a weight stack, and there's nobody else behind me. I'm the last one in, right? And I was like, and I mean, it wasn't like, oh, I think I felt something. It was like, yank.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm watching, and a minute later, Lee Dunn, who's a very famous psychic, he comes on, he's standing next to me, and he doesn't know what happened because he just came in. And he's standing next to me, and he goes, what? And I said, what's the matter? He goes, a hand just rubbed across the front of my thigh. And I was like, yeah, I think there's a kid here. Right. Oh. And then a minute, because of where the hands were. Right.
Yeah.
And then a couple minutes later, yank. And I mean, it almost came out of my back pocket. And I mean, really, it wasn't like, oh, maybe this is it. I mean, it was like almost tore the pocket off. I mean,
wow.
So that kind of caught my interest after absolutely nothing being around. But there's definitely a kid in there.
Huh. So what is your thoughts about like kid ghosts, you know? Like I come from like the whole religious background where kids would never be a ghost, but it seems like it happens often. And so I've kind of changed my thoughts about that. But like, why would they stay behind?
I have no idea, but I know they do.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've run across quite a few kids. I was down in Phelps Dodge Hospital doing a I guess stream called Haunted and Alone, where I was good to be the only person ghost hunting this gigantic place. And didn't turn out that way. Other people seemed to just jump in. But anyway, anyway, there was a thing up on the third floor, second or third floor, which was a nursery. And I had my my night vision and I had my infrared, right? And I went up there and I had the FLIR going too. So I'm looking through the FLIR and we're right outside. And I swear you see something the size of a baby crawling across the floor.
Oh.
So I hollered at the closest person to me was Dylan Rathman, who was like 15 at the time. And I you probably know Tony Rathman. He's real famous with all the audio stuff. But Dylan comes over. I said, "What do you see?" And he goes, "That looks like a baby walking and crawling across the floor." I said, "Sure does." And then Jim Martin came over and he was trying to film it, but he couldn't film just what you couldn't. It wouldn't show on the camera. But I mean, it looked just like a baby crawling on the floor, right size and everything else.
Wow.
So I know that they're out there. I also had, believe it or not, probably the only person who ever ghost hunted the Palomino Strip Club in Vegas. I really did. I mean, the guy said this place is haunted, so I went up there and I went in the back. And the problem with that is the place is always open.
Oh yeah.
Right. But anyway, I was there and I went back to the old dressing room, the girls' old dressing room, and I was sitting there and I was talking, trying to get some interaction, and the K2 started hitting. I said, "Oh, somebody's here with me," right? And you hear a little girl's voice go, "It's me."
Oh,
right. So when I went down to the owner, I said, "Why did the girls quit using that dressing room?" And they said, "Well, you saw a little girl going through there." And I said, "Let me play something for you. I got news for you." And he goes, "What?" And I played it, and he looks up, and I said, "She's still there."
Oh.
Right. And he's like, "Wow." So they're still around. Why they're still around, I don't know. Because I come from a Catholic background, and of course we have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So I guess it all counts. But could be too. They're waiting for parents to come and go with them.
Yeah.
It could be all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But it's cool when you run across little kids because you can act like a kid yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I had to be very good at. It's my nature.
I love the baby though. I've never heard that before. That's really like it's creepy in a way, but cool.
Yeah,
to think
yeah, and you on the thermal how it comes out blue, because it's cold. I mean, this was like a real dark blue. You could see the shape, and it was moving on the floor.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. Yeah.
That's
and we got
really
thrown out of the nursery. I said, "All right, Dylan, you've seen this. Sit down, join me." Right. And we started asking questions, and the K2's going off. I gave him the K2, and it's, we're having a good session. And finally, I asked him, I said, "Are you glad we're here?" Nothing. And I said, "Do you want us to leave?" Bam, all 5 lights.
Oh.
I said, "If you do it again, we'll leave." Right? Bam, all 5 lights again. And Dylan looks and he goes, "What are we going to do?" I said, "We're going to leave." Right? Yeah. So we got up and we went to a different floor, but something definitely in the children's area was reacting.
Yeah, maybe like the nurse or a mother that was with the baby and wanting to be protective. Oh, how interesting. Oh my God.
Well, you know what? There was another place in Phelps Dodge, which was right down at the thing, down in the basement. And there was a place where they would wash the bodies, right? There's like a tub that they wash the bodies in. And I'm down there and we've got a K2. I've got my K2. I've got the REM pod on a tripod about 6 feet away from me. And I'm talking and I'm getting all kinds of responses on the K2. And then I said, "Okay, can you make the REM pod? That's the red thing over there." And I walked over. I said, "If you touch the antenna or you come close, it'll light up, and then I'll know you're over there." Right? I said, "Could you do that for me?" And I come back and I start talking, and the REM pod goes, right?
Wow.
And Jim Martin, the guy that was doing Spirit Realm, he's like, "Wow," right? And he had these 3 different pieces. He had a REM pod, and he had a Mel meter and 2 K2 meters on a tripod on a T-square.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like 10 feet from me, and none of his equipment would go off. Right? And he asked me right in the thing, he goes, why is yours going off but not mine? I said, very simple. I introduced myself when I came in here, and I said, could you please come to me?
Right. Yeah.
They did. But the real interesting, you can even hear this girl that is doing the chat thing holler, wow. Because I go, okay, you're interacting with the K2 meter and you did the REM pod. Can you make them both go off at the same time? Boom! And they both went off. And you hear, wow! So that was pretty cool. You know, when you get something that's reacts with you and interacts, it's so cool.
It is, yeah. I mean, like I always like don't expect something to happen, but I hope that something's going to happen. And then when it does, it's just like every time it's happened, it's been mind blowing to me because it's amazing, you know.
Well, you know what's really cool, and you know this too, just as well as anybody. You can go to these famous places and absolutely happens
right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And you go back there the next time just by yourself, and it blows up.
Yeah.
You know, so it just depends on if the spirits are okay
right.
with who's there.
Yeah.
You know, like Bannockburn House. I mean, I have to tell you something. I came up with something. I don't even know why I did it. But there was 3 of us. We had K2s. There was a young girl about 22 named Abby. And then there was Lynn, and then myself. And then the guy, Paul, who was running, you know, letting us through the building. And we all had our K2s going. And we were all within a foot and a half of each other. We're standing in a circle. And mine's going off to all the questions. Boom, 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 boom. And there's like 1 or 2 lights, 1 or 2 lights. And I said, Lynn, put your K2 over here. So she put it next to me, and I said, ask them for the spirit to come between us. So she asked, and then both lights went off. And I said, let me try something. And I started taking my hand like this, about a foot above it, and just rotating it. I said, can you please come in here and light these up? And all 5 lights on both of them, right? Yeah. And I went, Abby, come on over here. So Abby came over, and I went like this, and all 5 lights on all 3 of them, right? So I said, Abby, you do it, right? So she started doing it. Boom, they all went off again. So I don't know if you can actually manifest the energy by doing this, but I've never seen anybody do it. I don't even know why I did it. Just all of a sudden, you know, let's try this. And bam, it just jumped right off the page. It was pretty cool.
That's interesting. You kind of like stirring up the energy somehow.
Yeah, I was like directing it. Come here. Here's where we want it. And I remember too, we were in a place in Scotland, myself and Mikey Thompson. And Mikey Thompson, very good investigator, by the way. He had a tri-field meter, and he set it out, and I set my K2 next to it, and we started asking questions. And I mean, they were only this far apart, right, on a table. And everybody's watching, and my K2 is just responding, bam, 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 5 lights over and over. And his is barely moving. He goes, that's impossible. You're looking at it. What can I tell you? You know?
Yeah, I think it's mind blowing because, like I said, those things are really hard to work with. I feel like something has to be very close and have a lot of energy to make them work. That they're not super sensitive. Like REM pods are more sensitive, so I think they're probably easier for a spirit to manipulate. So I think that maybe it's because they're able to connect with you and you kind of use some of your energy, like you have that right energy for them to help manifest, you know. There's something to it.
I think they can read you very well.
Yeah.
I really do. If you're a kind person and you're not there for belligerent reasons, you know, if you're really there to investigate, you know, I always say too, when I'm talking, say, look, I have a recorder going right now. And if for any reason you have somebody you want to have a message, now would be a great time to tell them, and I'll make sure they get it if you do it. Now, I got to be honest, I've never had anybody leave a message. Yeah. But I think that kind of softens everything up because you're offering to do something for them. Right. And it's funny. People pick on me about my K2 meter. They said, man, wherever you go, you got that thing, and it goes off every single place we go. I said, well, can I tell you?
It's your tool of choice.
Yeah. That's the reason I use it. It works.
Right, exactly. Why wouldn't you? All right, let's see. I got some questions for you I'm going to bring up because I can't remember anything, but let's see what my questions were. Okay. Okay. What did you learn as a stuntman that you use in life today, including in paranormal investigations?
Be careful.
I like that.
Be careful. Plan out what you're going to do. I mean, if you're going to do stunts, you better know what's going on or you're going to get seriously hurt, right? Because I mean, I've been thrown out of helicopters. I've been kicked down 3 flights of stairs. You know, I've done all kinds of weird stuff in my life. But it's the same for ghost hunting. You know where you're going, know what you're dealing with, and act accordingly. So that would be, I would say, be careful and be nice.
Yeah.
You know, nobody
Yeah.
likes a mean person. Go in and be nice, smile, laugh. You know,
Right. Yeah.
they
Because you're going to
probably,
get what you give too.
yeah. That's what I mean. Besides that, they probably are tired of people giving them the same exact, spiel. You know,
Yeah.
I'll go and I'll tell them jokes. I'll just carry on like my usual boobish self. You know, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. Oh, I know one. I want something I want to tell you before you go farther.
Okay.
Do you remember at the Orange County Paracon?
Hmm.
There was a time there when I was saying in my speech that I would hear a girl's voice about 15 feet behind me. And then as soon as I got done, there were 2 ladies and they started asking me some questions. And you were right behind them or right near them.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I hear a girl call my name behind me. And I turn around and I looked at them. I said, did you guys hear that? And we said, yeah, we heard a girl call you. So
Yeah.
Jay Bloomkey sent a girl to me who is a psychic. And I've never had anything like this. This girl nailed everything. And I mean, things that she could have, there's no way she could know. Right. Like she said, yeah, somebody named the Griff, which is my nickname for my evil stepmother, which nobody else knows.
Oh.
Right.
Wow.
So, and talk about my mom, my grandma, and everything else. The one that didn't come through was my dad. That was kind of surprising. But she nailed everything. And I asked her, I said, can you make Jade show up? Right. Well, let me jump back the other way. I had asked Lee Dunn, the guy who was the famous guy in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
And he sends me a message the next day. He goes, look, I usually if I'm trying to get someone, I usually get them while I'm sleeping. He says, and I saw a very pretty blonde girl came over and sat on the bench next to me and dressed in Western clothes, right? He says, and I got from her that she was really religious and that she passed away from cancer, right? Which was all true. Every single one of them was true. And he goes, and she's from the South, right? And I knew this girl in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
And she was very religious. She did die of cancer.
Yeah.
And she says she's been trying to get your attention, right?
Yeah.
And I said, what is she trying to tell me, right? And he goes, well, she told me. I said, really? And he goes, because usually you get, if you're dealing with a psychic,
Yeah.
and Lee is the real deal, trust me. And I trust him. If he tells me something, I believe it, because we'll go into a place that's really famously haunted, and like Gregor will say to me, he goes, Lee, you feel anything? No. all the other psychics, something's manifesting. It's a woman in white. Okay, God.
Yeah.
Can't we buy some colored dresses for women?
Right.
But he told me, he goes like this. He goes, yes, she's been trying to give you a message. I said, okay, what is the message? He goes, now we used to have these big discussions all the time, right? He goes, she wants you to know that there really is an afterlife.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. So then this other girl that, that was so cool that, because we actually did talk about that all the time. And this girl that Jay Bloomkey sent my direction was spot on about everything. She was the one that, knew this other stuff. And I said, can you possibly get Jade to come through again? And she goes, well, I can't really, that's not how I work. I can't really draw people in. I can just tell you who comes for you.
Right.
Right. She goes, oh, there's a girl here now that wants it. She says, and I don't see them. She goes, I feel them and I can hear their energy and stuff like that. She goes, but there is a girl here and her name's Jenny. Right. Saying she's a blonde girl. She knew you from Nashville. I'm like, whoa. Right.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, but that's not her name. Her name's Jade. And I went, wait a minute. Jade's not her real name because she was a model.
Yeah.
And her name wasn't Jenny. It was Jeannie, which
Oh,
is close enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So two very good psychics, both nailed the same girl. So
Yeah.
that was
Well, yeah.
pretty
And
amazing.
I was there, like you said, and when you heard it, they reacted when you reacted. Like they physically and verbally reacted to it, which made me look up because I was looking at, like, I was trying to find a place to go eat or something. So I wasn't paying attention. And their reaction, your reaction, and then to get the whole story. I love that because then, I mean, how many times had you been like at the grocery store or something and you heard someone call your name and you finally got like closure to that, and she was able to deliver that message to you? I mean, that's one of my favorite stories ever.
Well, the interesting thing about it is she was getting more adamant about getting my attention
Right.
to the fact that other people were hearing her. Well, like the
Yeah.
girls at there. I remember
Yeah.
I was one time at at Gelson's getting a sandwich made at the deli, and that's made like a U. And I was over standing with the one guy, and it sounded like somebody at the other side called my name. And I turn around, there's nobody over there, and the guy looks at me and he goes, "I heard it too." Right? So it was getting, and I always walk down the alleys because I walk to get my sandwich stuff. It's a couple mile walk. And I was hearing this voice more often and more often. So
Yeah.
I knew somebody really wanted to tell me something.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's a great, I don't think you can ask for a better thing for them to tell you there really is an afterlife.
Right. Yeah.
So, I
And
mean,
that's amazing because you had to like make the connection through somebody else. And you said he gets it through dreams, which is absolutely,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I love that. That's amazing. And that's not the first time I've heard that, where psychics sometimes get all the messages through dreams, and
Yeah.
all these
well,
things had to happen.
he gets his stuff too when he's awake,
Okay.
when he's ghost hunting, but he said this one came to him in a dream.
Huh.
So,
Wow.
and I mean, he described her. A matter of fact, I went and I looked on her Facebook page, which is still up there. And the second picture is of her wearing the Western clothes. So,
Wow. I love that story.
yeah, that was really something.
Yeah. I mean, the peace that would give you for many reasons, right? To know
Yeah.
that she's okay, that she remembered, and, like it shows that when you cross over, you're still connected to the people that you were connected to when you were living, and you still like remember things that you said you would do. Because that doesn't always happen, which makes me think that many times people do have loved ones who are trying to give them a message, but they're just not either open enough to hear it, even though they think they are, or they do hear like a voice and they just kind of dismiss it. You know what I mean? And maybe they don't have a psychic that they're working with that's able to, be like,
Well,
hey,
yeah,
I had this dream.
I was very lucky. I had two world-class psychics I could
Yeah.
ask. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a pretty lucky fella,
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. I want to know what is on your para bucket list, because you've been to a lot of places. Where's someplace you haven't been that you need to go?
Well, most of the places I really want to go, I'm never going to be able to go to. I would love to go to the Tower of London. That would be one. Another place, there's a place right down the street from me here, and it's called Wonderland. And they actually made a movie about it, actually two movies. And it's where the porn star John Holmes let some people into these bikers' place, and they all got beat to death with iron rods.
Oh.
And if there's any place around that's got residual energy,
Yeah.
that's the place,
Wow.
And I mean, it's 20 minutes for me.
Yeah. Oh, you never know.
Yeah. I've always wanted to get in that one. Those two would be places I would really, really want to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been lucky because, like on the video that you saw, I mean, there's Waverly, there's Mansfield, there's Roslyn Chapel. I mean,
Yeah.
I've gotten to go to so many iconic locations. Leap Castle almost killed me in Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some real stuff. Down in San Diego, this place called, well, I think they changed the name, but it was the William Heath Davis House.
Yeah.
And
I've been there too.
Have you?
Yeah.
I was walking down the stairs with a girl named Brandy, who was a model, a friend of mine and was into ghost hunting, so I brought her along. And the San Diego ghost hunters, they're all girls, were down below. You know, when you come in and go to the right, there's a little room right there.
Mm-hmm.
They were sitting on the floor and they were asking questions and things like that with the REM pod and all the stuff they had. So Brandy says to me, she goes, "Why don't we wait up here?" We started to walk down the stairs and let them finish. So she was behind me and I started to sit down and something shoved me from behind. And I mean, if I wasn't used to falling and stuff like that, I wouldn't have been able to stop myself
Yeah.
because unfortunately my big butt was heading towards the thing. Otherwise I would have got launched. But yeah, it was interesting. But when we were done, the where we both parked was probably 4 blocks away.
Yeah. That's
And
a rough area too.
yeah, I was going to say that area is not the best, especially
Yeah.
for a model girl to be walking
Right.
along. And I said, "Come on, I'll walk you back." Besides that, I liked her, right? And so she also told me she had cookies. She made cookies for me. So we're walking back, and my phone rings, and it's Maritza, who was the head of the San Diego Ghost Hunters. And she goes, "You have to hear this." I said, "Okay, what is it?" And all the girls are sitting around. They go, "Who pushed Rick?" And it goes, "Spirits."
Yeah.
They go, "Spirits? How many spirits pushed Rick?" And it goes, 5. And the girl goes, "Why did 5 spirits push Rick?" And they go, "He's big." And they had it on tape. I mean, it was hilarious.
Yeah. How interesting that they have a sense of humor about it too.
So I got jumped by 5 ghosts, dirty rats. You know, I was on, I think it was George Norrie's show. And I was talking about that. And I said, yeah. And I was walking Brandy back. You know, she was a model and she had cookies. Rough area. She was a model. Right? And he just starts laughing.
All right. Let's see. Okay, so like say somebody is watching this and they've never done a paranormal investigation. What is something cool? What's a cool way for them to start? What would you recommend that they, do? Go on a group ghost hunt, go on their own, like.
Well, if they went on a group ghost hunt, they could see some of the stuff other people do. And that might give them a little idea what to do when they go out. But I mean, you don't have to have a lot of equipment. You can just take your cell phone and put on the voice recording, because it'll show you a graph. And as you're talking, you can see if you're getting any feedback. Yeah. So, you can do it in your own house. Yeah. I mean, go out to the park, walk along, go to a graveyard and walk through there and just start talking. Matter of fact, I have to tell you, when I was in Roslyn, no, it wasn't Roslyn. It was in Edinburgh, really scary place, real scary graveyard. I was walking along and these 2 young girls came up to me, like 14 or 15. And they looked at me and they said, "Excuse me, but we're really scared. Can we walk with you?" I said, "Of course." And I said, I always got scared in graveyards when I was alive. You know what I found out? Young girls are really, really fast.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. So, I want to know, because of the dreams, have you ever been on an investigation and either that night or later on had a spirit communicate with you, like through a dream? Did a weird dream manifest? And even maybe you didn't think so until I've just asked this question.
That's what I'm thinking, because I've had dreams where people have come to me, but it doesn't seem like they were anybody from a current ghost hunt. But yeah, I have had different things come to me in dreams. So I kind of think that maybe they're foreshadowing something. But I will tell you something that happened. This has nothing to do with dreams, but it has something of somebody coming to you. I was staying in St. Andrews, Scotland, and I was staying in the university because in the summer they rent out the dorm rooms like a hotel. And I was on the 3rd floor, and they had common bathrooms, so you had to walk to the end of the hallways. But I think there was only one other person on this whole floor, and they were all the way at the other end. So I laid down to go to sleep. And I've got a big window. I got the window open and the breeze coming in. I'm up on the 3rd floor. right? And I'm sitting there and I hear all of a sudden a girl moaning very loud from like close to me, like maybe 6, 7 feet away at the most.
Yeah.
And I think, oh, there is somebody in the room next to me and they're having more fun than I am. And then I'm not kidding. I mean, I'm hard to scare. I really am. There was a scream of terror and pain that I mean, look at my face. I'll never forget this. I mean, I jumped out of bed. I thought somebody next door was being murdered. I went out in the hallway and looked around. But I mean, this thing went, and I'm not going to do it because it'll scare my neighbors, but it went from, and then it went, and I mean, it was like someone was being gutted. I mean, it was the most horrible thing I've ever heard. So the next day I went downstairs to, the reception area, and I said, "Have you guys ever had, a girl scream? Anybody ever report that?" They said no, but I did ask the psychic girl, and she goes, "Were you close to the stairway?" I said, "About 2 rooms down." She goes, "That's where it happened, in the stairway." So it's gotta get back there. I'm going back there again this June.
Good.
So I will be back in that same room if I can get it.
Yeah.
But that was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me, other than almost dying at Love Castle.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
That's very scary.
A scream like that in your room.
Right.
In the middle, and I had just laid down. I wasn't asleep. I mean, I just barely had laid down. It was like a minute, and I had my eyes open. I was looking towards the window, and all of a sudden this moan and then that scream, and I was like, holy crap. Yeah. Right? I jumped out like a ninja because I was afraid there was all kinds of stuff going on. An old fat ninja. But yeah, that was something. But that was something that came to me as part of the answer that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And I will tell you something that was really cute that happened there. I can't hear half the time when people are talking to me, right? It's weird, but I can hear if a bug whispers, right? Just where my hearing is set.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there in that room, or actually I was standing at the window looking out because I could see the St. Andrews golf course and the North Sea. I mean, beautiful view.
Wow.
And I'm standing and looking out and watching the people walk down the main drag there. And I hear, like by my door. And I'm like, and you can barely hear it. So I walk over there and I open up the door and there's a girl that's probably like 19, real pretty. Right? She looks at me and she goes, "Oh, I'm your maid." And I said, "Oh, hi." She goes, "My name's Marilyn." And I said, "Hi, Marilyn." And she goes, "Are you the ghost hunter?" And I went, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh, I'm really into that." And I said, "Well, come on in." And I took the chair and I propped the door open. Right? Yeah. And we just stood inside the door and I was showing a bunch of videos and stuff like that. And then her boss came walking by. She goes, "Oh, I better go." But it was so cool that I had a fan waiting for me outside the door.
Yeah. Oh my God. So she was like sitting outside the door. Was the noise the key, or was she like giggling, or?
No. She had just walked up to the door. And
you heard the shuffling?
Yeah. I was like, "What's that?"
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Yeah. Hearing is a very strange thing, how you can like hear things, but then if somebody's talking to you, miss letters and stuff. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, everybody that I know that ghost hunts with me, and you'll see this on all the videos and stuff, when they're listening to something, they go, "Rick, listen." Right. So I did get one at the Glen Tavern Inn. We went in there and there was supposed to be a cowboy named Calvin who got killed in this room. So I went in and I said, "Calvin, are you in here?" And you hear, "Yeah." Right. Mikey Thompson, he's really good with audio. And we hear, "Yeah." And I said, "I'm going to room in here too. You're not going to like try and crawl in bed with me or anything, are you? None of that funny stuff." And he goes, "No." Right. And I said, "I'm liking you better and better, Calvin." And he goes, "All right, all right." And I went, "All right, all right." I said, "You related to Matthew McConaughey, right?" And you know what he says? "F you." There was a bell. I was like, wow, I got bitch slapped by a ghost.
I love that too, because that means they were current on current times in our celebrities and stuff, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know if he was doing that, if just that's the way he talked, because he talked very, very Western, very country, you know?
Yeah. Huh. And the Glen Tavern Inn, I've heard about that place through, oh my gosh, I can't think of his name right now, but yeah, that's some place I'd like to check out too. There's a lot of
Well, if you
places in
go,
California I haven't been.
well, if you go, let me know. I'll meet you up there.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
there's a couple places there. There's one, the room right across from me is where a prostitute was murdered, who had her head cut off and thrown into the closet.
Oh my God.
That's a story anyway.
Yeah.
And the girl that was staying in that room that night said she didn't hear anything.
Wow. Well, that's
And,
good.
and Calvin didn't make himself known either after telling me to kiss off.
Yeah. Well, I have a theory that they come and go, and because time is different for them. I really believe that. And I mean, there's been times in our home we've had paranormal activity and then it stops. And one interesting thing before I end this whole thing, and I'll get your opinion on this, but we for probably about 6 years, maybe, we had different paranormal activity in the home. It's when I first got interested in paranormal. So it kind of like made sense to me that I would like either notice it or bring things home or whatever was going on. I was open to it. And when we bought the house, it has stopped. Ever since we like closed the house, there's been zero activity. And I thought, I don't know if it was maybe my landlord who owned the house previously, if he had a relative that was watching over the home because both his parents had passed away, if it was somebody who was in the home before and they just wanted to know that the house was going to be okay, if there was something about that that released them. You know, it was just interesting. I don't know. What do you think about that?
All of those sound like logical answers. I mean, it sounds like somebody was watching over the place, and when you guys came in, they went, "We're good.
Yeah.
Let's go. All right, guys, pack up. We're moving out." Right?
Oh no, they're staying forever.
No, Dee Dee and her husband got this. We're good. Let's go.
I guess it could go either way. They're like, shit, they're never going to leave now.
Yeah, that's sounds like a logical explanation to me. I've got an old lady that's here, and there's also a man that lives in this apartment.
Yeah.
And people have seen I've never seen the man. I've seen the shadow of the man.
Yeah.
And the reason I know the old lady's here is like once every 2 weeks she pulls my hair. She comes up behind me and goes, boom, boom. Just two tugs, tug. And I'll just say, "Oh, there you are. Why don't you ever talk to me? Come on, pull my hair all the time. I know you're here." Jeez.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. So is there anything that you've got coming up or anything that you want to promote?
No, not really. I'm going to be on a few more podcasts and things like that, but I'm thinking about starting a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Because I have so many videos and pictures, and I mean, you'd think in 50 some odd years you'd get something, you know. Otherwise you'd be stupid to keep doing it. But I've got some really cool stuff. Matter of fact, I'll tell one real quick. I went down to Tombstone. Oh, that's something I could promote.
Yeah.
In April, I'm supposed to be one of the guest ghost hunters for the Tombstone Paracon.
Ooh.
And it's supposed to be myself and Tony Rathman,
Yeah.
which would be really cool.
I'm going to try to go to that.
Yes, you should. But anyway, the Birdcage Theater, I had gone in there and I got to ghost hunt with just Billy Tully, who is the owner. And that's one of the things. The very first thing it says in my book, I have one superpower. People are really nice to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I went up to the guy that runs Mary King's Close. I said, "I'd like to ghost hunt." He goes, "Oh, come on, let's go."
Yeah.
I go to Birdcage. "Yeah, come on." Right? So, but anyway, I put my night vision camera up down in the poker room. And if you go to a Tombstone, you got to see the poker room because it had 8 years where the poker room, there was one game ran for 8 straight years.
Oh.
And that doesn't mean they closed down and they opened up the next day. It
Yeah.
ran continuously for 8 years.
Wow.
But there was a lot of gunshots in there. And there was prostitutes that were no farther than 15 feet away. There was rooms for the prostitutes. So some guy'd make a big pot and off he'd go, and then he'd come back. But I was down there, and Billy was upstairs. So I put my camera so you could catch the whole room. And I said, did you get killed down here? Went up a couple stairs. I said, did you kill somebody? Because a lot of people got killed down there. And then all my equipment went off in the whole place. About 45 minutes into it, I had 9 pieces of equipment. They all went dead. Right. So there's some major energy in there.
Yeah.
But I got home, and a couple weeks after I was there, I started listening, and you can hear me coming down the stairs, and Billy's with me. And right in the middle of us just about getting to where I'd ask the questions, you hear a Hispanic voice say, I had to, which can only be the answer. Did you kill somebody?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I sent that to Billy. I said, Billy, check this out. And he's like, wow. I said, Billy, I got to get in there again for like half an hour. Can you get me in? And he goes, well, I really could, but you'd have to be here right now. I said, good. Open the door. I'm standing outside. Don't give him time to make up an excuse. Here I am. Open it up. So I went down there, and I got my recorder out. And you know how long it took for me to connect with this guy again? 38 seconds.
Wow.
I asked him, I said, did you see anybody? I said, what I actually said when I came in, I said, look, last time I was here, I asked if you had killed anybody or anything like that. And you said you had to. Did you see anybody get killed down here? Yes. So this guy, you ever go to the birdcage, go downstairs to the poker room. This guy likes to talk.
Yeah. I am highly interested in going to that because I love the whole, like I love ghost towns in the Wild West. Like I love that whole vibe. So it's anytime that I can, I try to go to a place like that, and it's a Paracon, so that's even cooler.
Well, you
and a
would like
ghost hunt.
well, you would like it because it is very haunted. I mean,
Yeah.
there's many places, Big Nose Kate's, the Oriental Theater, the Oriental Saloon. I mean, there's all kinds of places, you know, the
Wow.
Birdcage, you
Yeah.
know, the OK Corral,
Yeah.
which I may be the only person that knows where it really happened. It didn't happen in the OK Corral.
Oh,
It actually happened out on the street. You
that
know,
makes sense.
Yeah. And I know where the 2 people that got killed that died in the street, where they died. So actually, I was out there with my K2 meter one night, and a whole bunch of people came out of this one hall. And this one guy walks by and he goes, I know what you're doing. I said, yeah, I know what you were doing too. You were leading a ghost hunt over there. And he goes, yeah, you're the only person I've ever seen go to the right places. And I said, well, it always helps to do a little research, you know.
Yeah.
So
That's the truth. And it's
look,
hard to
look,
do research a lot of times because if you just rely on the internet, so many people pile on to bad stories that aren't real. It's hard to like sift through it. You know, you got to get the actual newspapers and stuff.
Yeah, actually, I walked into the newspaper place. It's called the Epitaph.
Mhm.
And the lady there turned me on to a guy named Josh Hawley, who wrote the book about the haunted tombstone.
Oh, okay.
So he actually told me a lot of stuff, where to go and things like that. So that was very good.
Yeah. Okay. And I hope you do the YouTube channel because I really want to see like all the different videos that you have.
Oh, there's so many. I mean,
Yeah.
there are so many. I think there's so many really good, audio ones too.
Yeah. Yeah. You can put those on there too. You just have a picture of wherever it is and then have the audio go across. That's exciting. All right.
Actually, my evil sister-in-law said she would help me with it.
Yeah,
So,
it's not hard to do at all. I've been doing it for a couple years now, so I can help you too if you need any help with anything. All right.
you know, Dee Dee, you've met me. You know I need help with everything.
Thank you for watching. I posted links below on how you can find Rick. And if you want a dream interpreted, please go to my website, thedreamsinterpreter.com. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Is there anything in the castle that we should be afraid of?
And